will be number 5, Rob McElnay. Well, there's Steve Parrish with the latest bike from the Mitsui Yamaha team. Peter Clifford, an impressive performance there from Steve, who's not always had the best of bikes for the start of the season.
Yes, Steve there has actually, he's actually looked as though he's given up on the new bike that they had built for this season based on the road going 500 4-cylinder Yamaha, and he's dragged out the old machine that they affectionately call Slug, or Son of Slug, and that's the old 500cc racing Yamaha that is of now about 4 years vintage and just has done Steve so much sterling service, and it's obviously been good enough for him to qualify in 4th position, which is amazing considering he's up against all the latest Grand Prix machinery.
So the field, as they assemble on the paddock, in a moment of drama there, we can see a couple of mechanics working on one of the bikes right at the back of the grid, and the rest of the field slowly coming out down pit lane. A nice bright sunny morning here at Donington Park, a little bit chilly, but certainly the weather nice and kind to us so far, and conditions virtually ideal for racing. Not a lot of wind, but definitely chilly. Well, we repeat, Ron Haslam, the man who won the World of Sport Superbike Challenge last year, is in pole position, and considerably quicker than anyone else in that practice, in the practice session that we had this morning. Haslam 1 minute 19.92, and he's the only man, in fact, to get under the 1:19.9 barrier. Practice time's very slow, Peter, this morning.
Yes, yeah, they had a bit of trouble because there was still sort of damp on the circuit. It was very, very cold, so the tyres didn't really get up to full working temperature. So there's a lot more to come from the guys, I think, this afternoon, as the temperature has got better and the track is now perfectly dry.
The field out then on the first of 2 warm-up laps. In fact, my apologies, it's just 1 warm-up lap, and whether that will result in some problems is debatable. Peter, I would have thought with the temperature as chilly as it is out there, very sunny but quite cool, I would have thought 1 lap would not quite enough to get the tyres warmed up.
Well, yes, it is a very, very marginal point, I'd say. The track temperature, although you say the sun is coming out, the tarmac is still very, very cool, and that has an effect on the performance of the tyres. And I would expect to see the riders take it easy on the first few laps, especially that very, very tricky downhill left-hander of Craner curves, which tends to catch people out, and we could see the front end slipping away then if guys try and press it too hard early in the race.
Well, there are some Haslam supporters in the crowd, and that's not surprising because Ron, of course, lives at Langley Mill, only just up the road, up the M1, probably something like 10 or 12 miles from Donington Park, and he is a very popular man, of course, at most circuits, but particularly at Donington. Well, let's confirm that Ron is fastest in practice. He'll be riding bike number 5, and there is the man who's second fastest in practice, number 11, Roger Marshall, one of the 3, rather the 4, in fact, Rothman Honda machines in the race. 3 of them occupying the front row of the grid. Ron Haslam fastest, Roger Marshall second best, and Wayne Gardner third fastest. But Roger Burnett, the 4th member of the new Honda Britain squad, is in fact down in 17th place, having had some mechanical problems in the practice session. Marshall going so well at Brands Hatch yesterday, and certainly eager and keen to show what he can do against Haslam and Gardner, who may be teammates, but Marshall, of course, at 34 years of age, is keen to show that he's as good as any of the 2 Grand Prix runners in the Rothmans Honda setup. So the track the grid being slowly cleared. This, of course, is an 18-lap race, and it promises to be as an exciting opener for the World of Sport event as we could have hoped for. Rob McElnay there with the new colour scheme. They've just taken sponsorship from Skull Bandit, and so we have Rob McElnay in an unusual helmet colour and an unusual colour scheme on leathers and white, so we've got to keep our eyes open for Rob McElnay, bike number 33. He completes the front row of the grid. So Haslam, Marshall, Gardner, Parrish, McElnay, 5, 11, 7, 6, 33. They're the numbers to be looking for. Second row of the grid, number 25, David Griffiths, Keith Ewan next in, then Alan Jeffrey and Chris Martin. 10th fastest with Paulin, and away they go. And again, it's Haslam who's always good at the start. Haslam, bike number 5 in the centre of your picture. Next to him, David Griffiths, 25. He's going to be second into Redgate as the field peel hard right through Redgate. Ron Haslam at the front. Bear in mind, we're a little bit worried that the tyres won't be quite as warm as they should be at the start of this race, but it's Haslam the man who's making the charge with David Griffiths there, going through Craner Curve in second spot, and I think that's Wayne Gardner in 4th place. There's Keith Hewen in picture. He must be in 5th spot, which isn't too bad a start indeed for Keith. He's not had the happiest starts of the season. Things going wrong in South Africa.
And it looks as though McElnay's up into 2nd place already behind Haslam, the leader.
So McElnay having gone ahead of David Griffiths. There, though, is bike number 5, Ron Haslam, the man from Langley Mill in Nottinghamshire. Rob McElnay, number 33, 25 is David Griffiths, 11 was Roger Marshall, and up there too was Keith Hewen and Wayne Gardner. Mark Sell, number 4, going through there. And some very, very wide lines going through McLean down the back straight into the chicane for the first time. Haslam and McElnay running 1st and 2nd. And that's Wayne Gardner, bike number 7 in 3rd spot. Roger Marshall on number 11 in 4th position. So the first 4 men, comprising 3 of the Honda Britain men, with Rob McElnay, the odd man out, in 2nd spot on the Skull Bandit Suzuki. So Haslam in front. And a quick rundown at the end of that first lap. Haslam the leader, McElnay in 2nd place, number 33. 3rd was number 7, Wayne Gardner. 4th was number 11, Roger Marshall. 5th was David Griffiths, number 25. And in 6th place was number 6, Steve Parrish. But on the 2nd lap, Haslam beginning to stretch an advantage over McElnay. And as we said in practice, Haslam was 0.77 tenths of a second faster than anybody else, although the track was a little bit damp. Well, there were doubts that Rod would be here at Donington Park, a little bit of negotiation problems to sort out. I mean, David Griffiths goes very wide and loses a lot of ground, and I spotted Gary Lingham in there. Peter moving up very quickly.
And Trevor Nation as well. It looked as though the 2 privateers, Lingham and Nation, are on their way up through the pack.
Back as Ron Haslam completes the 2nd lap in this 18-lap battle, and you can see the Honda snaking there as Haslam changes down. Wayne Gardner goes through in 2nd spot now. Rob McElnay into 3rd position. McElnay's got the tighter line, and these men are really on the limit. The bike snaking and weaving on the slick tyres.
Yes, Gardner's got the power on early there, didn't he? Nipped inside McElnay and has got ahead of him, and Rob now looking for a way back past the Honda. But his disadvantage is the way the Honda accelerates out of the corners. It's very different for Rob to be able to hang on to him. As we saw, he gained a 10-yard lead there, number 7, accelerating away, Wayne Gardner into 2nd spot.
Well, we saw, as Peter said, the better acceleration of the Honda, so Honda's now 1st and 2nd in the form of Ron Haslam, and this man, number 7, Wayne Gardner, the Australian who joined the Honda Britain team a couple of years ago, this year starting his full Grand Prix season. Still there in 3rd place is Rob McElnay. Mick Grant is out of the race, and we've also had another retirement. 34, John Brindley is out of the race, and number 77, Fred Mossel, also gone. So 3 retirements early on in this race, including Mick Grant. So that is the end of the 3rd lap. 15 more laps to go. Haslam number 5, 7 Gardner getting closer now. Haslam's lead beginning to be eased away by the Australian. And there in 4th place, bike number 11, Roger Marshall. And McElnay and Marshall being dropped off a little bit now by the 2 Grand Prix stars in the Honda Britain lineup. Haslam number 5, Gardner number 7 on identical bikes, and certainly in the past couple of years. Oh dear, a nasty moment there for Wayne Gardner, Peter.
Yes, he got the power on really hard there, and the front end lifted, and he got the front wheel a little bit crossed as it came down, so it kicked the bike viciously, obviously desperately trying to get the power on early, coming out of the corners in pursuit of Haslam.
So Gardner riding on the limit, a very, very talented rider. Started the year very well, as World of Sport viewers will remember. He was 3rd in the 500cc race of the South African Grand Prix, and visibly you can see the gap between Haslam and Gardner is closing. We'll try and get the stopwatches going on the pair at the end of this lap. Haslam the leader. Gardner number 7 in second spot, so it's 5 from 7. Then Rod McElnay and 0.6 of a second. The gap between Haslam and Gardner. In fourth place there, number 11, Roger Marshall. And those first 4 men pulling away up into fifth place now goes number 14, Gary Lingham, so he's on the charge. And in sixth spot, number 16, Keith Hewan, and Keith will be well pleased, I think. But there's the first 4 men, and you can see the enormous gap they've got over the fifth place man. So these first 4 men really piling on the pressure. And when we look at the practice times, that's not really a surprise. Almost a couple of seconds between the 2 men. And 25, David Griffiths, sadly, who was up with the leaders early on, he's pulled out of the race. David Griffith, a retirement at the end of the 4th lap. There is McElnay. Behind him, Roger Marshall. They're battling for 3rd and 4th places, and really they have no answer, but Gardner is closer. Gardner is definitely closer to Haslam. Well, this pair had a superb dice at the South African Grand Prix in the 500cc race, with Gardner getting the advantage, and a quarter of a second, 0.25 of a second, the gap between Haslam and Gardner. And of course, no mirrors on these bikes. Haslam will only know from his pit signal, and you can see Gardner's ready to make the charge. Gardner is looking for a way through, down through Craner curves, very, very fast. Then hard over to the right, past the old hairpin, underneath Starkey's Bridge. And Gardner's got the better line. Gardner is through. Wayne Gardner caught Ron Haslam napping there a little bit, and it's Gardner the leader. And this pair swapped and changed on almost every lap of the South African Grand Prix.
Yes, and we saw Gardner get the better drive out of the tight hairpin, so that he actually overtook Haslam as sort of a quarter of a mile further up the track, but it was the acceleration out of the corner that made it count. Well, we can see the speed difference of the 2 bikes. Haslam comes out of the slipstream. He's thinking about outbraking. He's changed his mind. Gardner will be first through the chicane. This is the end of the 6th lap. 1/3 distance then in this race. Gardner the leader, Haslam in 2nd place. It's Rob McElnay still 3rd, Roger Marshall is 4th, and Haslam will have, oh, you can see that Gardner is trying everything. The bike weaving its way as they exit Redgate and go down through Hollywood into Craner curves. And we saw this is where Gardner was a little bit faster than Haslam before. So whether Wayne is going to be able to stretch any advantage over his teammate remains to be seen. And Gardner is definitely opening a gap. Well, whether Haslam's got anything in reserve, we don't know. And of course, Haslam has now got to consider whether McElnay in 3rd place is going to get closer. But as I speak, Ron begins to wind back in, the Australian, down towards the back straight, underneath the Dunlop Bridge. Gardner over his left shoulder, sees where the challenge is, and Haslam right there with Gardner. Of course, what Haslam has to do now is to push Gardner as hard as he can, because the leader, number 7, the Australian, is very hard on tyres. You could see the back end of the bike walking as they now pass 2 tail enders, nipping both in. Oh, nearly got inside them there. And Ron Batt, number 17, being given a bit of a riding display by Gardner and Haslam. You can see the speed difference between those 2 men and the tail enders, and that was a chance for Haslam to get a little bit closer. And certainly these 2 men are teammates, but I promise you the rivalry is absolutely unmatched in any team. It's a friendly rivalry, but both men believe that they're better than the other guy. There are no team orders whatsoever, and they're out there for each man to do his best and for each man to try to win. And as I was saying, Gardner pushes the back tyre very, very hard. You can see it sliding around a lot of the time. If Haslam can force him to overdo this, it might use up the tyre before the end of the race. They're both using the same Dunlop tyres, but Gardner's very hard on his, and it'll be interesting to see. And Gardner's big wheelie caught him out because Haslam took the
opportunity to go ahead, and I think that was Wayne doing a little bit of exhibitionism, and he's paid the penalty for that, Peter. And here's a chance to see that again. Wayne Gardner looks over his shoulder. There's Haslam. He winds the power on. The front wheel comes up and up and up and up. And Wayne has to shut it off to drop down the front wheel because they're getting close to the chicane. But Haslam seizes the chance to nip round the outside and go ahead. Down through Craner Curve again. And Haslam is making the most of that chance. He's opened up something like 25 yards over Gardner. And if Peter is right, that Wayne's racing style is going to put pressure on the rear tyre, and again Haslam puts a tail ender between him and Gardner. Gardner sneaks through on the inside, no problems there for the Australian. Haslam 28 years of age, Gardner 25 from Wollongong in Australia.
Now normally they'd have a very good idea just how long these tyres are going to last, but their development, and Gardner got a big rear slide there. You see, maybe he is stressing up that tyre too much, and they'd have a good idea how long they would last, but because it was damp practice this morning, they did very few laps at racing speed, and it's difficult to project just how they will last.
They're coming up to the halfway stage now. This is 9 laps gone. Haslam the leader. Gardner has a look down at that tyre. He will know, and the gap just under 3/4 of a second, 0.73 of a second. So Haslam, Gardner, that's the order, 5 and 7 in first and second place. In third spot is Rob McElnay. Fourth is Roger Marshall. And an enormous wait to see who goes through. And it's Keith Hewan now who's gone ahead of Gary Lingham and Steve Parrish. This is Gardner, and he's chasing Haslam as hard as he can, but as hard as he can, the tyres don't seem to be quite standing up to the task that's being demanded of it at the moment, Peter.
Well, to give you some idea of what the stress they're under, that rear tyre is only about 6.5 square inches where it meets the road, and it's at least 130 brake horsepower that motor's putting out. So that makes about 20 brake horsepower per square inch. That's over 3 times as much as the average small family car. So you can imagine how that rubber is being tortured.
Haslam coming through the chicane to complete his 10th lap in this 18-lap battle, and the gap you can see stretching. It's now 1.5 seconds between Haslam and Gardner. Visibly the gap has stretched from the previous lap. It's doubled the gap between Haslam and Gardner. And Rob McElnay with the Skull Bandit Suzuki going well in third spot, and I'm surprised that Roger Marshall with the Rothmans Honda Britain bike hasn't got any closer, Peter.
Well, of course, it isn't quite the same machine. It looks identical to that which is being ridden by Ron Haslam, number 5 there, the leader, but they are the Works Grand Prix bikes, and Rogers is a sort of second string machine, and his tyres are a second string. These guys at the forefront, the tip of development on both machines and tyres, and when it works they have the advantage.
It's meaning more than surprised he's not got closer to McElnay.
Yes, certainly Rob seems to be doing a tremendous job on the Suzuki.
Haslam just dives through on the inside, and the tail ender gentlemanly gives a hand signal to wave them on. Perhaps you ought to have indicators fitted, Peter.
Yeah, it might be an idea. One thing Roger did have in practice was that he decided to swap from 16 back to 18-inch tyres, and he's obviously had a few trouble setting the bike up.
So, this is the end of the 11th lap, and it's almost 2 seconds now. The gap, as Haslam appears to have this race very firmly under control. Gardner there, his teammate, in second spot. Rob McElnay is in third position. In fourth spot is number 11, that's Roger Marshall, and we are still waiting, would you believe, for the 5th man to go through as the leaders go out underneath Starkey's Bridge. More than half a lap as Keith Hewan and Gary Lingham go through, having pulled away now from Steve Parrish.
And as we watch number 5, the leader, Ron Haslam, I noticed that Wayne Gardner did signal to his pit crew as he passed the start and finish on this last lap, pointing, I think, towards the back of the machine as though he may be indicating some sort of tyre problem. But that we can only really guess at.
Haslam goes through. There's Gardner, number 7. You can see that back tyre protesting as Gardner winds on the power on the 3-cylinder factory Honda.
And of course, it doesn't mean that Gardner's out of control when the back end is sliding like that. That's the way Wayne likes to ride. He rides like that very successfully, drifting the machine, making sure he gets the power on very, very early. And when he's got the tyres suitable to the job, it's tremendously effective. But maybe today it's just not working out for him.
12 laps gone then in this 18-lap race. 6 more to go. There is Wayne Gardner, number 7. And, well, the track has dried out. Our unofficial timekeeping here says that Ron's lapping in 1 minute 14.43, and that really is very, very quick indeed. There's Gardner. You can see him almost lying the bike over there. Round the right-hander as he chases Haslam. And Haslam's bike also bobbing and weaving. You can see, just watch Ron's hands, watching the action there on the twist grip, on the controls. These men certainly have to work hard during a race. It's not a question of sitting there and pointing it. Haslam down behind the fairing. Gardner too, leaning over the bike. Underneath the bridge, and yet another wheelie from Gardner, and whether that means that Wayne's admitted defeat, Peter?
Well, it could be. Yes. Interesting to see now whether he signals to his crew again. No, he seems to flash straight past the start and finish. But he could have given up hope. But, of course, if he keeps pressing on, it's always possible that Haslam will have some sort of problem towards the end of the race. So he really shouldn't give up altogether. He should keep harrying as much as he can.
And both men, of course, using Dunlop tyres. So not a different manufacturer, although maybe different compounds to suit their different styles. And Gardner eases his way past Philippe Robinet on the Honda, one of the French visitors here to Donington this weekend. Robinet taking part in the European Championships, part of the weekend's programme here at Donington. Gardner in your picture, bike number 7, still in second place. They've done 13 laps now in this 18-lap opening round of the World of Sport Superbike Challenge. Gardner, the man who won the title in 1983. It looks as though he's going to have to settle for second best behind Haslam in this first round. Remember, of course, Haslam, the winner of this prestigious championship last season. And one of the things that Ron was very worried about when he was having the problem sorting out his contract for this weekend was that he might have to miss this race. Well, fortunately he didn't. He's here. He'll be leading the British team in the Transatlantic Challenge later. And it now looks as though Gardner may be closing back on Haslam again. Did he take it easy for a few laps to try and give his rear tyre the chance to cool back to its best working temperature, hoping for a late charge over the last few laps? Well, he may have, because the timekeepers here, or an official, of course, say that Ron was lapping even quicker, 1 minute 14.30, and that compares with the lap record set by Spencer at 1:13.21, so well over official lap records. But in fact, and Haslam's in trouble. Haslam is out. Gardner waved his acknowledgement, but Haslam looks in trouble, whether he just made a mistake or whether the bike has blown, and he's out. Ron Haslam is out. Looking down, we've no idea at all, but it just looks like a mechanical problem, unless that rear tyre's flat. It's very difficult to see. It looks as though it could just be the soft earth, but he did look down, round at the rear. We can only guess, really. So, Ron Haslam, it's possible that he's had some mechanical problem. So, Ron Haslam, the man who was leading, out of the race, and Wayne Gardner takes over. And it means that now that Rob McElnay, of course, moves up to second place, the gap between Gardner and Gardner Miguel beginning to enjoy himself. He's a showman in the finest spirit of motorcycle road racing showman. There is Gardner going through, and a chance to see the incident when Haslam went out. And something definitely went off there. Peter, what do you think that was? Really have no idea. Came from underneath the machine. You can't see anything missing there on the bike. But Ron sticks the thumb up to Wayne Gardner as Wayne Gardner goes past. Well, Ron disappointed, but not out, and it's certainly going to mean some problems for the Honda Britain mechanics. mechanics. George Jesse will be having to get the old spanners working to try to get that bike sorted out in time as Gardner comes through the chicane, coming round to complete 16 laps. Just 2 more laps to go in this dramatic race, and Gardner, as you can see, had a quick look at the pit signal board. He knows exactly the situation. He knows the lead he's got over Rob McElnay, and the lead is a very comfortable one, something in the margin of 5 seconds. Third now, number 11, Roger Marshall, goes up into third place. We're still waiting now for the fourth man to go through, and that should be Keith Hewan, but the first 3 men well clear of the rest of the pack. Underneath Starkey's Bridge, well, Gardner, the 83 winner of the World Sport Superbike Challenge. There goes Keith Hewan, there goes Gary Lingham, past our commentary position, so they are in 4th and 5th position. 6th is Steve Parrish on bike number 6.
Yes, it's virtually impossible to guess what might have fallen off. It's one can imagine a bit of exhaust pipe breaking up, but it's quite impossible to say, really. And that was McElnay we saw flashing through there in 2nd place.
So Rob McElnay, the man who was a very short-lived competitor in the opening round of the 500cc World Championship, and the gap is less. Certainly McElnay is now beginning to get a bit of a sprint on, and Joey Dunlop having been lapped now by Wayne Gardner, and whether Gardner's just coasting or whether McElnay has been taking a breather, I don't know, but there's the gap. It's not as much as it was before, and it was 5 seconds at one stage. Now whether Gardner is going to be caught napping remains to be seen. They've completed 17 laps, they're on their final lap. Well, Gardner will have no chance to get a pit signal. There he is, he's wheeling again. He's not dawdling, but he's not going as quick as he might. And McElnay has already fought his way past Joey Dunlop. There's Dunlop, that number 3, he's the tail ender, he's been lapped. And there's McElnay, and just ahead of him is the race leader, Wayne Gardner. Well, are we in for a dramatic end to what's already been a dramatic race? You can see them. McElnay's almost... They're coming underneath the back straight. McElnay, it's now or never for McElnay if he's going to do it. He could try it on the braking. He's going to get closer to Gardner, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Gardner goes through the chicane for the last time, and McElnay is very close. They're trying hard, and Gardner almost made a mess of it with the wheelie celebration. He didn't know Rob McElnay was there, and that's a surprise. He waves his finger, said, "You naughty boy, you almost caught me out." Well, Wayne Gardner, the winner of a dramatic opening round for the World of Superbike Challenge, an excellent 2nd place and a fine debut ride for Rob McElnay on the Skoll Bandits Suzuki. 3rd home, the teammate to Ron Haslam, Wayne Gardner's teammate Roger Marshall taking 3rd place. In 4th position, well, we're still waiting for the 4th man to go through. The checkered flag is out as Gardner and McElnay talk it through. Keith Hewan finishes in 4th place. 5th is Gary Lingham. So, an interesting and entertaining opening round, and Wayne Gardner waves. So, confirmation of the first 3 then in this opening round of the World of Sport Superbike Challenge. The winner, Wayne Gardner. Number 7, 2nd, number 33, Rob McElnay on the Suzuki, and 3rd home, number 11, Roger Marshall on the other Honda.